Përshëndetje motra.
Mirë se keni ardhur në Trime podcast.
I'm Leonarda.
I'm Lejla. Welcome home.
So today we've got a special guest.
It's been a while since we've had a guest with us.
Yes, I know it has, hasn't it? And we've actually been speaking with this particular guest for a long time.
Yeah, for a while.
I think you've reached out to us for a long time, and then only recently we were like, come on the podcast.
Yeah.
So we'd love to have you.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Why don't you, we never like to do the full introduction
Yes.
for any of our guests. Why don't you introduce yourself, let them know who you are. We know who you are, but they don't know who you are.
Sure. Do you know what? It's always weird to me, this question, because I feel like, yes, I'm Tosca, I'm, Albanian, Londoner, single mum, nutrition coach, helping women, empower themselves, all of this. But who am I? I'm on a journey at the moment of self-discovery. And I think if you asked me this last year, the year before that, I would have had a different answer. Mm-hmm. And it's so weird to me sitting here and not saying I'm a teacher when that so much of my career was built around that, and not saying I'm married where so much of my identity was built around that.
Oh my God.
So yeah, who am I? I'm kind of
Figuring it out,
man. Yeah.
I suppose in terms of life is never ending journey. Like, we're always trying to figure out. And in fact, me and Leo just recently had this conversation about figuring out who am I? Like, who am I outside of all of these stereotypes and gender norms that have been placed on me? So you're in good company, girl.
Yeah.
You're in good company to be having this conversation. Absolutely.
100%, especially because me and Lejla had a whole episode of how we are changing as people. So welcome to the club.
Yeah,
I honestly, the last few years have been full of so many changes and so much transition, and everyone looks like they've got that together, but we're all just figuring it out. And it is really surreal that I am even here today.
It makes me feel like even more excited about having you on, because it's like we're all on this kind of same journey, the three of us, like really trying to figure out, like, even since we started the podcast, we're now like, what? Wait, hang on. Even who we thought as confident as we were in ourselves before, we're now figuring out there's still so much more to learn about ourselves.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a very tumultuous journey.
So much uncertainty.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's scary, but I think that's what makes it wonderful.
Absolutely.
But you don't know what's next.
No, you don't know what's next. And I specifically wanted to ask you, with this journey that you've now gone on from 2 years ago, you're saying from teacher to now nutrition coach, how has that actually, has it changed your perspective on things when it comes to the Albanian women in our community? Has it changed your whole opinion about something that you used to think actually this was normal and now you think the opposite?
I think my personal journey has shaped a lot of who I am today, and my understanding of the pressures that women in our community have. I think I just want to start by saying, like, as a woman, I don't know how else to put it, but I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but
Join the club.
being a woman is so exhausting.
Yes.
I'm shattered, I'm knackered, especially this week and leading up to Christmas, New Year's. It's just the pressures on us as women. All the mums doing the elf on the shelf. I salute you, because that can never be me. There was a time when the journey almost destroyed me, and I lost myself. I completely lost myself. I lost myself in motherhood. I just was trying so hard to fit in to all these expectations and all these pressures put on me, and just trying to be perfect at everything. And I was completely burnt out teacher, bottom of my list. And I just really, really wanted to be healthy and fit, but I was stuck. It was like there seemed like there was no time for me. And the pressures in Albanian culture as well, and if you're an eldest daughter,
Welcome to the
That's a next level of pressure added on top of that. And, you know, I've been raised with very rich traditions, strong family bonds. And, you know, yes, I have a deep sense of pride in our culture, but I've also seen firsthand the immense pressure put on women to be perfect, more specifically to be thin. But it's not just about appearance. It's about how society measures a woman's worth. A lot of women from our community feel the need to prove their value by, you know, how perfect they are as a mother, daughter, wife.
And never actually just for themselves.
No, that this is the thing. It's the standards, the unrealistic beauty standards, and this striving for perfection. You're never going to get there. And it's such a massive pressure on us. And I felt that pressure, but I really believed I could reach it. Obviously, I wasn't aware of any of this at the time. In a patriarchal culture, so I'm not just talking about back home, you know, it's in England and most parts of the world, actually. In a patriarchal culture, women are taught that they need to prioritize their appearance over well-being. And this is the problem. We're also taught that we have to suffer and sacrifice ourselves for the family, for how we look. We're taught that resting is lazy.
God, that one. The rest is lazy. That one's haunted me on my whole life.
Yeah, I mean, when you go back home, you go to someone's house, God forbid the women are napping or resting. They're on their feet, ready to, you know, the man might be having a nap. But it's, and I've heard stories where women have literally, you know, said they're not going to buy a this is just an example. They're not going to buy a carpet cleaner because they need to do it with their hands and they need to scrub it and put it out for everyone.
Like they have to suffer.
But it's
to
almost
get
like,
good.
look at me, like look at me, look at how
Zoya.
worthy I am. Zoya, hitchnuk nalet. It's like we're glorifying this. We're this burnout. We're expecting it of women, and I think until we change that narrative and show women that, hey, you can come to my house and you know, there's a few dishes in the sink, but it's okay, because then when you see that it's okay for someone else to do it, then you feel less guilt. I think.
I couldn't relate more to that suffering. A few years back, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I constantly found myself like overwhelmed all the time with housework. And I didn't realise back then, but actually what was happening was not just the early onset of post-traumatic stress, but it was also living with ADHD my whole entire life. But I had no idea, like, because we don't talk about these things in our community. We don't talk about them in general for women, but in particular in our community, because they're such taboo subjects, because, you know,
where you're expected to not show that you're struggling.
Yeah, absolutely, because you're supposed to show everyone you're strong all the time. And I literally got to a point where I was like, I can't keep up with the housework. I now actually refuse to. I'm so exhausted by cleaning and cooking all the time. I hired a cleaner and I never looked back.
Well, a lot of women feel guilty to do that.
I don't feel guilty anymore.
No, neither do I.
No, it was the best.
It's either me, the house, or my kid. I can't do all three.
Because it was,
and I'm okay with that now.
I'm spending all of my time homemaking. I'm spending all of my time, and this was like after I left my ex-husband. And I realised that I'm now alone. I'm single, trying to raise a child. It's either I spend all of my time cooking, cleaning, or I somehow ask for help somewhere. Someone has to step in, because I don't want to miss out on my own life, but also my life with my child.
It's energy,
of course.
Isn't it?
And I think
energy somewhere else.
I think the way we're also raised in a way is we seek that validation of our cleaning techniques, because I did that until recently. I would seek validation from my own mum, because she's known in our whole family as the OCD cleaner, and she's respected for it. So when she says to me, "Chikam, parce que knotch," it's a sense of like,
I did something good.
but it's so
pressure to be the perfect daughter.
But it's so bad. It's not a good thing. That's not that. I'm not saying
these
that.
Traditional values that are put on us intensify that pressure, I think, and it is so suffocating. It feels so suffocating. For the longest time, when I look back, I feel like I was sleepwalking because I didn't understand what it was I was feeling. I thought it was me. And this pressure that we have as women to excel in our education, in our, you know, I did my psychology degree, then it was like master's, postgraduate, and then I was even thinking of doing a PhD. What am I doing with a PhD? That's not even, I didn't do it, thankfully, but it's like more, what's next?
It's a never-ending goal, and then every time you reach the goal, the goalpost changes and it moves.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's exhausting to be a woman, and in particular to be a woman from an ethnic minority, because our cultural standards are completely different to women in the West.
And this pressure, like you said, for the housework, the cooking to be perfect. Our children also have to excel. Don't forget that, because women talk about, oh, my child got this grade and this. And we have to look gorgeous while doing it as well.
And like, we're loving it. We're not suffering.
We have to look sexy. We have to look gorgeous. And I think the messaging that we're getting as women is we are not enough. Which is not true. And look, this drive that we've been given, of course, it's made us resilient and capable and all of that. And I wouldn't be here today without that. But it does feed into a perfectionist mindset that can be damaging. And it then leads to this all or nothing thinking, where if we can't do something perfectly, we failed. And if in my what I do, if the diet or workout is not giving me immediate results, I'm going to try extreme measures. I failed. I'm going to, or some women don't even start their health and fitness journey because the circumstances are not perfect. Let me wait until let me wait until this.
Let me start Monday, or let me wait until absolutely.
And as a result, I ended up in a toxic relationship. I had a very unhealthy lifestyle. I was, like I said, bottom of my list. And women, I realized, come to me for two reasons. They want to be thin. That's their main goal. And they're stuck. And I'm very familiar with the cycle that they're stuck in, and you too might familiarize with this cycle. Is this like all the pressures to be perfect, to excel? Because of the pressures, you put yourself last. So you skip workouts, skip meals, and you might gain weight as a result or whatever. And then it leads to the guilt, shame, frustration. Oh, it's me. You blame yourself. So then you restrict. You starve yourself. You do fad diets, waist trainers, fat burning pills, whatever it is, or you cut out foods. And then what that leads to, because it's unsustainable, is you're tired, you're exhausted, you skip workouts, you skip meals, you're bottom of the list again. You feel guilt, you feel shame, you think it's because of you that you failed, and then, let me try that diet again. And women are in this cycle for years. I was in it for years. Looking back now, I was probably yo-yo dieting since I was 16.
Oh, easily. But I think I was dieting from younger than that.
Wow.
Yeah, younger than that. I was from a really young age. That message to be skinny and to be thin was already like battered mentally into me, and from parents, from people around me, was from a really young age.
And what I realize is, so women tend to put on healthy puberty weight, and because they look different to before, they might get comments, school, things like that. And then for me, Atkins diet, it went downhill from there. I just yo-yoed ever since, and it's just little things. Like I think a friend at the time said, I overheard her saying Tosca would be so much prettier if she was thinner. And I,
you know what, I think I've had that so many times.
I was slim then, so But then the problem there is someone else hearing that, who was maybe more overweight than me, is thinking, gosh, if people are thinking that about her, what must they think of me? So it's that messaging that you get, it becomes internalized.
No, absolutely.
And you feel like you're not enough. And then I was doing very unhealthy things just to get to that goal, because I thought getting there would bring me happiness.
I did this so much when I was young, like I'm saying about dieting. I think the first diet I remember being on, I was 14, and we were going to Switzerland for the summer. We always did that in the summer. You either went back home or you went to see family in Europe. And we were going to Switzerland to see family. And I remember thinking, because it was constantly, you need to be thin, you need to be thin, thinking, oh my God, I don't want people to look at me, and I don't want them to tell me I'm fat. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to like feel mare. The fact that I was a normal teenage girl, but because I wasn't stick thin, I felt like I had this pressure, and I dieted. That was the first time I dieted, and I did. Of course I was going to lose weight. I was a young kid that wasn't eating what, as they should be. And I actually remember just being praised by everybody. I was 14.
Yeah. No, I had a similar experience where I've been chubby since the day I was born. Like, I've just been a chubby girl. And in my childhood, I would receive comments more from the people that would buy me clothes, like, oh, this doesn't fit, like, you need to lose weight, you need to do this. And then at the dinner table,
the clothes fit you, exactly.
And then at the dinner table, kind of like restrict food and this. And then it got to a point where I was maybe 17 and I was doing that 14-day tea thing. I did that, lost so much weight, and I continuously, I went on like a carnivore diet. I went into a keto diet, tried everything until I met my husband, and I just wanted to be healthy. And then I just did 7 small meals a day, and I actually ate. I went to the gym. I got strong. And then I became anemic, and then I got PCOS, and then it went downhill again from there. Okay. But now I'm at a place where I don't care. And I shared this with Lejla at the UCAP Foundation. That was the first time in my entire life that I've actually felt so comfortable in my own skin, because I would rather be more comfortable in my own skin. I'm eating healthy. I've got PCOS. I carry weight because of a chronic condition. It's not because I'm being unhealthy.
I love this because you have to accept and love yourself at every stage of the journey. And a lot of women don't.
But I think even with that, sometimes we feel like we then always have to justify. Like, I am this way. I look this way. I do because of the. And we shouldn't need to do that. But I do feel like there's this huge pressure in and amongst our community to constantly justify why we're either underweight, because we do the same to women who are underweight in our community as well, and overweight. And even those terms, like even those terms, as if like this just so like people have made it like icky, and it shouldn't be.
A reason why this is something I wish I knew when I was that young. The reason why a lot of women end up having excess weight or whatever anyway is because of that restriction. And, I was in that binge restrict cycle where I would restrict and do things that required extreme effort and extreme perfection. If that food hits my mouth, I have to start again, And then you binge, of course, because you're sending a message to your body and your brain that there's no food. So of course your appetite is going to be raised, your hunger levels are going to be raised. Your body you cannot work against your body. You got to work with it, and your brain knows it doesn't care if you want to lose weight. It wants you to survive. And I wish I knew that, because what happened was I was then hating my body. Like, why is it making me hungrier? Why is it making me do these things? And I was in that cycle for such a long time. Binge eating is when you eat a large amount of food, you feel out of control, and it's not really hunger related. It's more because of emotions, stress, sadness, boredom. You feel guilty. I felt guilty, distressed, disgusting after every episode. But of course, my brain, had released the chemical dopamine, so it was rewarding.
So you're chasing that.
I didn't know what was going on, but I just couldn't understand why I kept doing something that was harming me. And I've been through very tough things in my life, and food also became a coping mechanism.
I'm just listening, I'm like, this has literally been my whole life. It's been my whole entire life. So yeah. Sorry.
So I did the fad diets, the fat burning pills, cabbage diet, you name it, like eat 1 grapefruit for breakfast, 5 eggs for lunch. My mental health suffered as a result. That's the message I want to get across today, that it is not worth it if it costs you your mental health. It's not. And I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I recognize a pattern. So they say the first step with self-awareness, you have to recognize a pattern. I recognize this binge restrict pattern. And I made a decision. I can't tell you what the moment was for me, but I made a decision to put my health first, my mental health, my physical health. And every time I showed up for myself and little things, honestly, the first thing I did was I swapped my Red Bull for a breakfast. Because I was like, okay, this is not breakfast, Oscar. And you actually need to sleep and not function with Red Bulls throughout the day. That's the only tiny swap I made. It doesn't mean I never touched Red Bull again, but that little thing was the catalyst for everything. And I started to slowly develop self-love and confidence in myself. A lot of people think, let me lose the weight, let me get to that, and then I'm going to love myself. Then I'm going to love... No, the self-love that I developed helped me leave unhealthy situations. I have jumped off 2 metaphorical cliffs in my life. In the space of a few months, I divorced and I left teaching, both harming my well-being. Scariest things I've ever done. But my parachute, a friend asked me, what was your parachute? And it was my healthy lifestyle and my mindset, because my lifestyle made me resilient. You go to the gym and you leg press the equivalent of 3 grown men. No one can F with me when I come out of that gym. Like, I became stronger. But I was nourishing myself as well. And I took little small steps, taking care of myself. Started with walks. I hated exercise. And I thought, okay, this is the thing. A lot of women have this all or nothing thinking. You can't do it all and you can't do nothing. So there has to be something. Yeah. And for me, it was, okay, I hate exercise, but I'm going to go for a walk instead. So that's where it started. And I broke free from that all or nothing mindset. Becoming a mother also made me realize I wasn't talking to myself the way I talk to my child. Yeah. I wasn't, as a teacher, I realized I'm not showing myself compassion and patience and kindness the way I'm showing the children. So that made me realize, oh, my self-talk is really messed up. And when we say self-talk, it doesn't mean you're stood there speaking out loud to yourself. It's the inner critic, those messages in your head. And my self-talk was awful. And a lot of women who come to me, give me a meal plan, tell me what to eat, and F all of that. I lure them in with the promise of fat loss. Yeah. And yes, I do also deliver that. But I focus on the self-talk. And what they get as a result is more than just fat loss. And if that's a byproduct, fine. Yeah. But it shouldn't be the goal.
I think what you're saying is just so massively important, because as I mentioned about my first diet as a teenager being 14, I then was in a constant diet cycle until I left home. And I know now, in hindsight, I know it was due to trauma. I completely get it now. But I was young, like we were kids. Who knew what trauma? We didn't know. And when I went to uni, it was the first time I'd ever had any freedom. And I didn't need to restrict anything that I was eating. Okay. And I didn't have anyone watching over me to tell me what I could and couldn't eat. And so I was like, oh my God, let me just eat everything. Yeah. Anything and everything I see, I'm going to eat it now.
You gave yourself permission, or you felt out of control?
No, it wasn't permission. It was out of control. Right. It was what I thought. It was what I thought freedom was. But it wasn't. It was because no one had taught me what you're saying, that permission, that give yourself permission and be kind to yourself. So I think when I started uni, I was about size 14, 16. At my heaviest, I was 131 kilos. And all of it was due to the fact that I did not know how to cope with the things that were happening in my life. So I just turned to food. Okay. It was constant binge restrict, binge restrict, binge restrict. And I got to the point where
your brain then makes a habit of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It becomes a habit.
Yeah. But it was like, I thought it was the only thing I could control, but and like it was like a coping mechanism, but there was no coping happening. Yeah. It was just exacerbating me and my mental health. And I had weight loss surgery in 2018, so I had gastric bypass. And then that, it wasn't like, oh yeah, it cured everything, because what I realized happened was I was still in the same abusive relationship with an abusive man. So that had never changed. I've never dealt with the trauma from my childhood. So that hadn't changed. I'd never dealt with my own mental health. That hadn't. So, you know, like all of these
So
were
the quick
compounded.
fix didn't lead to
Yeah,
that
it
happiness.
didn't. What it did was make me go in the complete opposite direction. And then I just stopped eating. And in the space of
Right,
10 months,
really?
I lost 60 kilos. Wow. Yeah. I looked like a zombie. Like
I bet
I
you
was
got compliments.
gone. Yes, I did.
Okay.
And a lot of compliments. It was all of a sudden everyone loved me, and I'd go out and men at the time, because I
Yeah,
wasn't
you're more
dating women at the
desirable.
time. Yeah, and then I started realizing, hang on, men are falling at my feet.
They want to lift things for me. They want
Yeah, and I'm at home. My husband is being abusive day in, day out. But there's a completely different world out there. And that was the catalyst to me actually starting to love myself. It was one of the catalysts that made me change my life completely and actually leave my abusive husband and start to create a life that I loved for myself.
That's amazing. I'm
And
so happy for you.
my point of saying that is that quick fix didn't fix
No,
anything.
it doesn't.
No.
It didn't fix anything.
Look, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not naive to the pressures and that, you know, I didn't get a blow dry to be here. And like, I'm not like, I'm not. I do play the system. I'm very aware of it though. And that's, as long as you're aware of it and you do things for yourself and not for other people, that's the difference. And people ask me, how are you so confident? It's because of your weight loss transformation. You know, at my heaviest, I was 95 kilos. And it's because you're thin, or it's because, you know, you've built your physique in the gym. No, my confidence actually comes from knowing that my appearance is the least interesting thing about me. That's what, you know, I don't think I'm the most beautiful woman in the world. And, you know, the goalposts do keep changing, because when I was overweight, my algorithm on social media was full of women the way I am now. Now I'm this way, which is my ideal way and the way I'm happy at and comfortable at. My algorithm is full of women with six packs. So there's always this message, it's not enough. And I'm not going to lie and say I don't have that pressure as well to, you know, do I need to be thinner? Do I need to be more toned? Like, you know, I know what it takes for me to get that very low body fat percentage. I know it will take sacrifice. It will take me giving up going for pizza with my son, maybe going to events with friends, giving up cheese and pasta and pizza and korhich. No chance. I'm not doing it. No chance. I
love my carbs. And I love my meat too much.
And I think my friends are not going to remember me for how much I weighed. It's about touching lives and, you know, using that energy to do what's important in the world. And I've learned that embracing my authenticity is far more empowering than chasing perfection. And I realized how much pressure I was putting on myself, how much pressure society was putting on me. And I just said, F all of that, living for others. It's been so liberating. And this conversation is about breaking free from those pressures and redefining.
And you know, like, I think that's that's it. You've hit the nail on the head. The conversation isn't about telling women to be thin, because that is actually the antithesis of what we do, like us, just even Leo, and I know, like, for your work as well as a health and wellness coach, it's actually about showing that there is a way out of that unhealthy mindset.
It's about redefining what it means to be a strong Albanian woman.
100%.
That's what it's about. Wow. And it's, if you think being thinner and thinner and thinner is the answer, it's not.
No, it definitely isn't. Wow. It definitely isn't. I completely agree with that.
About the kind of the patriarchal pressures to be perfect. Can you explain a little bit about what that means for women today, but in particular for women in our community?
Sure. So to look at today, we need to look at the pressures we had in the past. So in the past, it was perfect daughter, you know, you've got to be a virgin, so you're chosen by the man, and you've got to be married, and then you've got to look perfect to keep the man, and have children, the pressure to have children, lots of children, to continue the legacy, you know, all that. You've got to be great cook, great cleaner, you know, let's go. We've grown up hearing this. Everyone has. Like, let's go and see. And all those pressures to be perfect. Today, we still have a lot of those pressures, but on top of it, you've got to make money now. You've got to have an education. You've got a career. You've got to start your own business. I know women who are studying, working, raising children and have all the housework and cooking to do as well. Like, it's not enough. What do you mean you stay at home? You're not going to start your own business. You're not going to do. What do you mean you work? What about your kids? And if you come from immigrant parents as well, that's another layer, because you have to excel, because they came here to give you a better life.
It was their sacrifice.
And then, yes, you still have the pressure to have children, but don't look like you have children.
Don't actually look human.
Don't show your stretch marks. Don't show your... And the goalpost is always moving. If you talk to my mum, she will tell you that in the beauty standards in her day, they used to put powder on to look paler. Now, women want to look tan. So it's always moving. Women are expected to be flawless. They're expected to be thin. This is everywhere, but especially in our community, to succeed in their careers, to raise a family, to always appear in control, always hiding their struggles. And there's so much value on appearance. That's where that term comes from. Oh, she looks like $1 million. It's the value thing.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. And women get the message, prioritize your appearance over your well-being, and you'll be fine. You'll be loved. You'll be accepted. You'll be valued. Look, men have pressures too, but they're not held to the same beauty standards as women. Society judges women very harshly if they fall short in any area. That's the difference. Housewife, working mum. Today, women in our community do things to be thin, to look better, that actually end up making them feel worse. And the pressure to do it all, just leads a lot of women to not even bother with their health and fitness, because everything else comes first. And that's not true.
I think from your point about this whole part about the patriarchy, how does this lead into thin privilege? And how do women internalize this idea?
Women are taught from a young age, being thin is a key part of beauty. Whether that's fairy tales, Disney, the villains are ugly or fat. The good ones, the women who are chosen by the princes are beautiful, thin. And we're taught that this is a key part of worth in many cultures, through media, advertising, and family expectations, now social media. Yeah. And you're taught that if you're thin, you'll get a man. The man is the prize, idolize the man. You'll be loved. Yeah. That's the message that women get. You'll be more desired, you'll be valued, you'll be accepted by society. And women also see others around them receiving praise or benefits for being thin. The thin women are getting main roles in films, the magazines, all of that. And little girls grow up, I'm one of them, you can probably relate to this, seeing and hearing other women pick their bodies apart. And over time, these messages are internalized, making many women feel pressured to get to and stay at all costs that size to be accepted or valued. So as I said earlier, at my heaviest, I was 95 kilos. That was my personal heaviest. And I know how I felt then and how I feel now. And I'm very aware of my thin privilege. The fact that I can go into any store and I don't have to worry about them not having my size. I can go to the theatre, travel, and I don't need to worry about if I can fit on the seats. These are all privileges that I'm very aware of. The fact that I'm more admired and respected, I have more opportunities, I'm desired more by men. Like I said, men want to help me, they want to carry my things. And we live in a society that constantly makes women feel like their worth is tied to their appearance. We live in a society that constantly makes women feel like they aren't good enough, especially if they don't fit that image of being thin. And fat phobia is everywhere. We're in that society. In media, you just look at comments on TikTok. Yeah. And how we're treated. And on top of that, we're in a patriarchy that values women for how they look, not who they are. So I just want to say, if you find it hard to love yourself right now, it's not your fault. It's not your fault you feel this way. The world has made it hard for women to see their true worth, but you deserve love and you deserve respect exactly as you are. I had to learn this the hard way, and I wish someone had said this to me at the time. And striving for that perfection is just going to create a cycle of restriction, shame, and exhaustion. And when women come to me for help, they believe that only through suffering can they achieve it. And actually that stops a lot of women from coming to me in the first place, because they think I'm going to tell them to run 7 days a week, or
It's too much hard work.
yeah, that's what they expect. And they're very surprised when I say eat more. You know, I pride myself in being a compassionate coach. I teach them that focusing on progress and self-kindness is far more sustainable. And look, it might take longer to get there, but it'll be forever.
Yeah.
And the goal is sustainable fat loss, if fat loss is what you want, without that all or nothing mindset. You know, aim for fun and long-term results. And they end up transforming all areas of their life, just like I did, because you give up on those short-term fixes and you give up on that need to be accepted and valued in society. And that perfectionism, which leads to the all or nothing thinking and dieting, you know, I'm either going to give up or I'm going to do something extreme if the results are not immediate. You get to this cycle. And I understand it, because delayed gratification, we want things now. We're in an Amazon Prime, you know, world. I want it for that wedding. I want it for that holiday. I have to put my life on hold to get there. So you do the extreme diets, the surgeries, the quick fixes, detox teas, pills, all of that. And I don't know, have you guys done any crazy diets?
Oh my God.
What's your
think there's a
craziest
diet that I
diet?
haven't done. So I remember doing what I now know is called the liver shrinkage diet, which is the same diet they gave me for 2 weeks before I actually had my weight loss surgery. And I didn't know that the whole point of that diet was to shrink your liver if you're having any kind of like abdominal surgery. And it's like 1,200 calories a day.
Where did you find it?
My mum found it for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not funny. I'm not laughing because it's funny.
It's technically what we call the cabbage soup diet.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah. But the actual, the technicality behind that diet is to shrink your liver for abdominal surgery.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like early 20s, really young. I think that's the most extreme diet I've
This
done.
is the thing, unless you're preparing for a life-saving surgery where you need to lose that weight quickly, or you're going on a bodybuilding contest, or you're about to be in a very important film role where you need to be thinner because of your character that you're playing, there's no reason for you to do these short-term things. It is the long game, but that doesn't sell. Diet culture tells women to starve, to skip meals, and it profits from you failing the diet. So it's this cycle again. You feel shame, you feel guilty because you don't look like the beauty standards. So you do the diet, which promises, I don't know, results in 30 days. They require maximum effort. You have to demonize or cut out foods. They're very smart when they tell you to do that, because they know exactly what's going to happen. By you cutting out those things, you're going to lose water weight and muscle. You definitely don't want to lose muscle. And you go on the scale, it's working.
Yeah.
You think it's working. But weight loss and fat loss are two very different things. And of course, you can't stick to it because it's not sustainable. So you fail, you feel like you fail, and you feel shame, you feel guilt, you gain the weight back and more because your body's doing exactly what it's supposed to do to help you survive, and you blame yourself. You say, it's my willpower, I'm not disciplined enough, it's me, maybe next time, this time I'm going to try harder. And they profit from you failing it, and then you try it again. The thing is, if you have to go back to a diet, it didn't work. You know, people say, I'm going to do that again because it worked last time. No, it didn't, because if it worked, you could sustain it forever. Whenever you want to start something, ask yourself, can I do this forever? Because the way I was eating on my weight loss journey is the same as now. It's just my portions are different. I still enjoy my mom's cooking. I can still socialize. I can go to restaurants. I have food freedom. Yes, I had to maybe eat a little bit less then to lose the weight, but the food I was eating was the same. I never deprived myself of food. And all the diets that you've tried, that I've tried, that anyone has tried, the only reason they've worked is that because they've put you in a calorie deficit, there's nothing magical about it. There's no mystery. The only reason those detox teas work is because you're not eating food, and they're replacing your meals maybe, and they're making you go to the toilet a lot.
Yeah.
You know, you go to the toilet, you lose weight.
Yeah, no, of course.
It's not fat. And it, you know, back home they do the Herbalife and all that. Are you going to take that forever?
No, you couldn't. There's no.
When you
I
start
think
eating, what
actually,
happens?
Probably the worst diet I've been on is slim fast, like shakes. They are the most disgusting. Like even
Slim
now,
fast, you
and
see?
I can't even stand the smell of protein shakes now. I don't need protein shakes. I'm not a gym like girly, but even the smell of protein shakes now just remind me of doing slim
So
fast.
Weight Watchers, all of that,
Yeah.
keto, they all profit from you failing.
Yeah.
And there are billions made by the industry that profit from women failing these diets. Because let's just face it, if they worked, we'd all just do it and be done. If the pill actually worked, we'd just take it and be done.
Yeah.
They don't work. And in January, because we're coming up to the new year now, they're going to make so much money from people feeling guilt about what they ate in the holidays. And the gyms are going to make so much money from people punishing themselves for what they ate. And the burnout from the diet that's depriving you of nutrients and energy makes you not able to do the healthy habits that you need to do to feel good. So then you just have no energy because of that diet. You don't enjoy it. You know, if you're doing a diet where you have to go to a party and I can't eat this food, it's not enjoyable.
No enjoyment.
So the strict diets, they cause a lot of stress in your body, and your brain thinks you're in danger. And that's really harmful for your metabolism and your self-esteem. You can't stick to a diet when you're hungry, tired and weak. You can't stick to that lifestyle. And the reason diets fail anyway is because you can't stick to it. So the main reason why a lot of women are overweight is because they can't stick to something. So they try something different and they restrict. And fat loss takes time, and it requires patience, and it has to be done in a way that doesn't hurt your health, mental and physical. And, you know, you can't say, I have to do it perfectly or I failed. Like 10 minutes in the gym is better than what you're doing now, which might be zero. Like sometimes I only have 20 minutes for a workout. If I said to myself, I don't have the hour, I just won't go. And then I just don't go for the whole week because I didn't go. Once a week, if you can't walk, walking once a week is still better than what you're doing now. So where men can just roll out of bed, brush their teeth, wash their face with water, hand wash, whatever, and go, we're spending energy on our appearance. So like my hair takes hours and it takes maybe 2 or 3 people to blow dry it sometimes. That's energy, that's time, that's money. I can walk into a room and I know I can see women's hair and I know how much they've paid for that hair and what it takes to have that hair. I have a little bit of caramel in my hair and it costs time, money, energy. And it distracts women from using that energy to gain more power, more money, to speak out, to demand change, because we're bloody tired all the time trying to keep up with these standards. And then men have more time to focus on their careers, their education, their personal growth. And one of the most radical things that you can do to fight the patriarchy is to eat enough. Because women don't even know what it looks like anymore to eat enough.
Yeah,
a lot of my friends tell me, they're like, Tosca, is this how much you eat? Is that a lot? And it's like, you don't know what enough is anymore because of the diets that you've done. And you go on MyFitnessPal and it tells you to eat 1,200 calories, which no grown woman should be eating. That's way too little. And strict dieting and punishing workouts exhaust your body. They confuse your mind. You can't focus on what's important when you believe that your weight is your worth and you're doing all these unhealthy things. You can't fight for change when you're hungry and you're tired and shattered and weak. And because we're taught that our worth comes from appearance, we spend energy meeting those impossible standards instead of pursuing our true potential. And we're just stuck in this cycle of restriction, shame, and exhaustion. And I think one thing that a lot of women forget is you're human. You're human, and being human doesn't mean that you have to be perfect. You know, just accepting that I'm human and perfection is an impossible standard, and embracing yourself and who you are is far more empowering. Because then that's how you create lasting positive habits without the pressure of perfection.
Yeah.
Internalized patriarchy, internalized misogyny is not something that we are not familiar with. And it's where women become the harshest critics. Why do you think this happens, and how can we break this cycle?
So women do become the harshest critics of other women. And so unrealistic beauty standards, they make women compare and compete. It leaves them feeling disconnected from their true selves. And these internalized messages of the patriarchy keep women striving to fit an image that doesn't serve them. So what the patriarchy does is it pits women against each other. And if you're not aware, you'll be so busy fighting and competing with each other that you've got no time to challenge the system. And so women end up doing the dirty work for men. We police each other in the home and out in the world, and how we look and how we raise our children so that men don't have to. And the reason I believe why women are so judgmental of other women is because they judge themselves harshly. They project this judgment onto other women. They feel that pressure to be perfect, so they put it on other women. And women have grown up hearing these conversations. So, you know, you hear it all the time, the comparing to pre-baby weight or bodies before marriage. This, you hear, you know, oh, that woman was left on the shelf, this illusion that there's a shortage of men. Men are literally falling from the sky.
We'd like that to stop.
They're falling from the sky. I can't keep them away. So then we're threatened by women who meet the body standard. We're threatened by women who look pretty. And you can't win. You embrace your natural look and you don't give in to these pressures to look young or flawless. You're told you look like a train wreck. Oh, she let herself go. You're blamed for the marriage failing. Well, look at her. Of course he did that. And then, so patriarchy thrives by dividing women, and you know, it's this pressure to, you know, look, the way you dress. If you dress your age, you're frumpy. Oh no, dress your age. And if you get cosmetic procedures, you're shallow, you're superficial, you're an attention-seeking whore. And we can't put immense pressure on women and then fault them for choosing cosmetic procedures.
What I found, like with me, my own personal appearance, is a lot of the trash talk comes from the fact that I've got tattoos. And it's always like, can't take her seriously, she's got tattoos. But I also find that sometimes when women are out there being free, and freedom is really subjective to you and to yourself. Freedom and safety is subjective. And so because I've found a sense of freedom and safety within myself, people are threatened by that. And so then the only thing they have is to comment on physical appearance or to make homophobic comments.
But you can't win if you're in an abusive marriage, or you're a bad mum for doing that to your kids. If you leave, you're a bad mum because you left. And, you know, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I think the way to break the cycle, because we can break the cycle, is how about we start by not commenting on weight? Like, it's so damaging. If you're slim, you're told spir. I've heard it all. Someone gains weight. Oh, Tarzan. Children. I've heard children. Duci crelonas. Like, you know, they're called the things. It's not helpful. People have scales. People have mirrors. They know what they look like. They know if you don't need to tell them. You don't need to say, eat a burger if they're thin, or should you be eating that? You know, these comments. If you're concerned about someone being underweight, overweight, maybe ask if you can help. Maybe take stuff off their plates.
Take the pressure off them.
Take the pressure off them. Stop giving advice. And, you know, it starts with our little girls and little boys. Like, girls seeing mums obsessing over the scale, picking their bodies apart in the mirror, complaining about weight gain out loud and giving into these pressures, shifting that focus from appearance to energy and strength, setting an example for the next generation of women. And then boys seeing their mum prioritize their health and rest, you know, and having an identity outside of motherhood. My son will not see me suffer, whether that's in the hands of an abusive man or to be thin. The cycle ends with me.
You know what? Ona e kom shti in B.
Oh, Lejla.
That I would never do that to Bella.
Yeah. And that's why Lejla, that's why Bella is Bella.
Just relate to everything you're saying when you're saying like.
And that's why Bella is amazing.
Yeah. And it's
little things though.
Yeah, I would
it's
never
little
do that
things,
to
you know,
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, that's enough food." Or
Yeah.
those pressures. And women in Albanian culture, women have always been the center of the family and community, but at the expense of their own needs.
Yeah.
And it's time to redefine that role because you can be a loving mother and a wife and a daughter without sacrificing your own happiness and health. Let's not shame women for resting. Let's encourage it. You know, don't praise this, oh, she cleaned the windows for 5 hours because guests were coming. Why do we feel like we must sacrifice rest or suffer to prove our worth? The best way to end the cycle, though, is to lift each other up and support each other. Because when you compliment women or their qualities and their achievements and you celebrate them and what they can do rather than how they look, we break that cycle of judgment and we create a more compassionate space for women. And let's normalize not measuring a woman's worth by how clean her home is or how perfectly crispy her pita is, you know. I think self-love is contagious. When women see you loving yourself and taking care of yourself, they feel less guilty for doing it. And you can also encourage other women to speak kindly to themselves. Women bond in our culture and many cultures, they bond over self-criticism. They apologize for their bodies. I don't know if you've seen it, you know, oh, sorry, girls don't have makeup on. Oh, my hair. Oh, like, why do we apologize for our appearance? Oh, sorry, I've put on so much weight. You know, you hear that all the time. And let's do more of this, talking about the pressures and the struggles. Let's do that more with our friends and sisters and cousins and talking about this so you don't feel. Women come to me not because they need to be told to eat less and move more. They come to me because they want to feel less alone.
Yeah.
And I help them feel less alone in the journey because you're not alone in the pressure. And instead of pretending we all have it under control, let's have open and honest conversations and talk about it because we thrive when we support each other. We, you know, let's lift each other up instead of competing or judging, I think.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I can't think of a better way to like end this episode. Like, thank you for coming on today. And again, we said this every time someone comes on, like, I feel like I've had a coaching session.
Yeah, literally.
I'm glad.
But thank you. Like, this conversation is so important to show women in our community that it's not about a quick fix. It's not actually the end goal. Isn't that to be thin means to be happy? The end goal is actually to have healthy mindset.
Bread is not the enemy. The enemy is the quick fixes, the fad diets. Once you let go of those and, you know, you give yourself time
and love
everything will, you know, those things might come as a byproduct, but avoid those quick fixes, especially if you've got, you were saying PCOS. You can make your symptoms worse with those quick fixes because if you're cutting out healthy fats,
it's a fact.
You're cutting out healthy fats, you're cutting things out from your diet, you're going to suffer even more and you're going to ruin your metabolism even more and just make the struggle even harder. And healthy fats play a crucial role in managing your hormones and managing your symptoms. So take those small steps. They really do add up. You don't have to overhaul your life. It's little things, that small walk, and talk to yourself like you would talk to someone you love, like a child. If I said to my son, you know, he's learning to play the piano at the moment, and if I said to him, right, you've got to do 2 hours every day, you're not allowed to make any mistakes. If you make any mistakes, we're starting a new song.
You would never talk to a child
you've
like
got
that.
a deadline, you've got to learn it by the end of the month. And I criticize him every day. He would hate it. He would hate himself. He would not enjoy it. He would give up. And you're probably thinking, okay, that sounds like abuse. Of course, I'm not going to do that. But we do it to ourselves. We do that to ourselves. And you can never sustain something if you don't enjoy it. And if you're beating yourself up about it and you're putting pressure on yourself to be perfect and to do it perfectly. If you know, maybe you have a meal that wasn't planned or not part of your plan, you don't need to start on Monday or tomorrow, just with your next meal. It's fine. Life is supposed to be messy. Humans are messy. We're not supposed to be perfect. You can't expect to be perfect. You just work with what you have. And, you know, life is lifing. You can't expect it to be perfect, to prioritize yourself and your health and fitness because things will come up. If you are only having porridge for breakfast, well, what if you've spent the night in A&E?
Yeah.
Or something's come up, or there's been a death in your family, or then what? You can't grab that sandwich in the hospital because you're on a no-carb diet.
Yeah.
And then, oh, I've messed up, I failed, I've got to try again. You have to do something that's sustainable for your lifestyle, not what worked for your neighbour's wife, or, oh, but she lost it so quickly, oh, but she did this and it worked. What works for you and your lifestyle? What I do and the way I eat and move is not going to work for someone who does night shifts, maybe. You know, it has to work for you.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
I'm
Tasma.
so grateful for the
loved
invite to
having you
be
on.
here, and what you're doing is so important.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
being part of such an important
Yeah.
conversation, because I have no doubt that, I mean, the majority of the women in our community are suffering from this mindset that
It's a
they have to
journey.
be perfect.
It's a journey.
And I
The
know
joy
they'll
is
take
in the
value from what you
journey,
said.
and it when you see it that way, it makes you put a little bit less pressure on yourself. And you know, on my podcast, I take women on this journey, and it's not supposed to be perfect. There's not going to be balloons and fireworks waiting for you at the end, because there is no end. There's no destination. It's about developing a relationship with yourself. That's what this journey is about. And you're not going to get there by doing something quick.